Hey everybody. So today we're going to take a look at the Hollywood Collectibles Ghostbusters Ghost Trap prop replica. I heard about these about a year ago. I saw pictures of it and I was really excited about it because I love the Ghost Trap. It's one of my favorite movie props. And I love Ghostbusters 1 and 2, so I was kind of excited about it. But then as time went on, I started reading things about it, and I kind of fell out of love with it because it turns out that as nice as it looks, it has a lot of shortcomings to it. So first of all, I mean, let's just take a look at it in general. The trap itself looks really, really good. I mean, they did do a really good job on this detail-wise. It really looks, really good. Here, let me see if I can turn this around. There's the back side of it right there. And here's the other side. So it looks pretty good. I actually like the way that looks. And then over here we got the foot pedal. And this is another part that was actually really well done detail-wise. I mean, you can see all this stuff going on here. And it looks like they used real electronic components down in here. And also this resistor, or whatever they call this thing, that looks really good too. It's really well done. And I guess trying to get a real one of these is virtually impossible now. But anyway, so, as nice as this looks, this thing is strictly a display piece. It is just only for display because it has no functionality. Well, let's put it this way. The functionality it does have is very minimal. One of the things it does have for the trap here is it's got the doors that can open. And oddly enough, the first thing you're going to notice is this thing in here. And I have no idea why they put this in here. It's like a little clicky thing, and I think it's supposed to be so that you can open the door by just, clicking it like that. But I'm not a fan of this thing. I have no idea why they put this in here. I mean, you can just open the doors from the side. So I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I think it was completely unnecessary. And I might see if I can get that out of there. I might see if I can remove it. But anyway, and then the other thing that it does have feature-wise is that you can, let me see if I can do this one-handed, you can actually pull this out, and it's actually attached by a magnet, but so you can actually pull this cartridge out, just like in the movie. This part is the part that goes in the containment unit, and then, that's empty in here, and back here you've got a magnet that holds it in place. So, I mean, that's, it's all well and good, I guess. But that's about the only thing as far as functionality is that this comes out and the doors open. So, anyway, I've collected several of these things over the years. And like this one here, I've got this is the Spirit Halloween version. And, it's okay too. I mean, it's nice that it has functionality to it. And it has sound effects when you push this little button right here. You can see the lights. And there's a ton of reviews on this on YouTube, so I'm not going to go into detail about it. But, I'm not really a fan of these, more plastic-looking traps like this, which this is. I mean, for the money, it's not bad. And pardon the mess here, but this is the Matty Collector one. This one came out, gosh, I don't even know how long ago it was. This is probably the most sought-after Ghost Trap replica, and mine is now back in the box. I had it on display for a while, but I just decided to put it back in the box because I needed the room where it was displayed. So for now, it's back in there. But for the money, this one is the best one. It's got the most functionality. I mean, it has all the bells and whistles. It does everything. I also have the neutrino wand there too. But yeah, so that one's probably the best one you can get. But unfortunately, my biggest beef with it is it's plastic also, and it looks kind of like a toy, and that's kind of the main reason I don't like it, but the rest of it is really good. And then I have this one. This one I bought off of eBay several years ago, and this one's actually my favorite one. It looks like a real piece of equipment. It's made of wood and metal and other materials, and this thing is heavy. I mean, this thing has some heft to it, and it looks really good. It's also got working lights. When you flip the switch here, you got the blinking light back here. And then, although that's not screen accurate, I appreciate the fact that the builder of this put lights in there, so I think that looks pretty cool. And so, like I said, I got this on eBay. The guy was making these for a while. It's got knobs that turn here. The knobs on the front also turn. Let's see if I can get a grip on those. And then on the other side here, oops, we have this detail here. This is all metal in here, so it's nice and heavy. And this knob turns. And it looks really good. I think he did a great job on this. Also, you can open up the hatch here. I mean the the doors. And man, these lights are so bright. I mean, I'm not going to put the camera in there, but they are blinding. If you look inside those, they are really, really bright. But it's a very nicely made piece, and this is actually my favorite one just because it feels like a real piece of equipment. So now getting back to the Hollywood Collectibles version. So yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, this has no functionality whatsoever, and for the $500 price tag, it's just pretty shocking, really. And so I'm going to have to do some upgrades on this. It's screaming for upgrades. For one thing, oddly enough, this does not have all the decals that it's supposed to have on it. See how it just looks, it looks just totally naked without all that stuff. I mean, here on the back of these ones, even, they have the proper things going on, and there's some on the side over here. This one has none of that. So I'm going to try to get some stickers for this, and then also it needs some kind of lights. I'm going to see if I have a lighting circuit on order, and hopefully it'll get here pretty soon so I can start doing some upgrades to make that red light blink, and then make these kind of sequence. And then also, well, let me turn this over real quick. Another thing about this that I'm not a fan of is that these wheels aren't even real wheels. They don't even turn. These things are just strictly for looks, and they're just kind of screwed in there. Hopefully I can focus in on this. But yeah, I think it's really pretty cheesy that they didn't put working wheels on there. So the first thing one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of these. These are the hubs that people use for making their own ghost traps. I think they're the hubs for roller skates or skateboards or whatever. And so I'm gonna try to use this. I think the actual props use those as well. And then I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that axle section off of there. That looks like it's, I don't know. Hopefully I can pull that off there. I was hoping I could use those as the axles for these, but I don't think that's going to work. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take one of these dowels. This is a leftover piece from my diorama that I made. I made 2 videos for a diorama that I made for my Black Hole Vincent and Bob figures, and it ended up being a 2-part video. But anyway, though, I had some of these left over, and this one particularly fits just right inside there, so I can actually use this as a axle. And I was looking at some of the screen use props, and it looks like they just used a dowel for that too, and it looks like they put some screws in here or something. I'm not sure I'm going to do the screws because I don't want this to split over time, but anyway, I'm going to try to get some working wheels on this, because yeah, I think that's really sad that these didn't have actually working wheels on them. So right out of the get-go, when I took this out of the box, you'll notice the screws are missing on this panel. I took those off because I needed to see if this panel is going to come off for putting lights in there, or a light in there. But right off the bat, I noticed that this little lens cover, this red lens cover, was, gosh, I wish this thing would focus better. Anyway, it was kind of crooked, and so when I tried to push down on it to make it, you know, fit more flush, it actually broke the little bezel. You can see the pieces right here. It was a cheap plastic, thin little plastic thing for that little bezel that goes around here. So I couldn't believe it. So I had to look through my model parts collection and see if I could find something that I could use as an equivalent. And I found a little dome, and I just made a makeshift little bezel right there. So yeah, man, I'm just having a heck of a time getting this thing to focus. But anyway, that's what that is. And so I put this back on here. Now let me put this on. It's too hard to do one-handed, so hang on. Okay, so after looking at this, I noticed that the whole thing is actually molded really screwy. I mean, if you look at the lens here, this right here is, it kind of like, it's not straight up and down. See how it's got this kind of curve to it? So it kind of like curves right in here, which is weird. And also it's higher on one side than the other, and that's why it looks like it's off center. So I'm not even sure I'm going to use this thing. I kind of think it looks kind of lousy. So what I might do is I might just scrap this and use this instead. I had this laying around, and so I might just use that. I haven't really decided yet. But, you know, and I was looking at other people's builds of this, and also some of the actual props, and there's really no consistency with a lot of them. You know, it's typical of movie props that things change, especially between Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2. These things were actually red, like you see them here, and then in Ghostbusters 2 they became gray or silver. and other slight, you know, cosmetic changes and stuff. So I might just I might use that instead, because I'm not really sure about that other piece. Another thing I already had to change on here is on this this resistor, or whatever they call this thing. I noticed that these little things sticking out right here, they were actually these really thin pieces of metal. They were these things. Let's see if I can get this in camera. They were like these really sharp pieces of metal. I mean, these things were like really sharp. They were like kind of, God, I can't even focus on it. But anyway, it's a sharp piece of metal here. There we go. And you know, I thought I'm just going to scrape my hand on that every time I happen to reach over to the trap right there. So I can't believe they even put those on. They're not even correct. It's supposed to be a thing that is, it's supposed to be flat on one side, which I couldn't find that piece anywhere. I don't know what that is. I'm sure you guys out there who are more familiar with this prop would know. So I actually had these little pieces of metal rod that were around, and so I put those in instead. At least they're softer on the edges here, and you're not going to, you know, poke your hand or stab yourself, because these things here, I mean, that's just terrible. So yeah, I think that's going to be, I already had to change that. So so anyway, I'm going to try doing some alterations to this thing. I'm just going to do some decals, some lights, and see if I can get the wheels rolling on it. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to motorize the doors or anything. I'm just not that mechanically inclined. But I do want to try to at least make this look better. I really am just shocked at how poor well, I mean, the quality is okay, but I'm just shocked at how much Hollywood Collectibles really didn't do much on this, and for the price anyway. So at the end of the video, I'll kind of give you my final thoughts on this, but for now, let's get started on the alterations on it. Real quick, I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, so here I am talking about this being $500 and commenting on all its flaws. So I need to make it very clear that I did not pay $500 for this. I was just at the right place at the right time, where somebody I knew had pre-ordered this, and then things kind of went haywire with his life, and he really needed the money, and so he sold this thing to me brand new in the box. He never even took it out, for $300. So for $300, I thought, yeah, okay, for $300 I can get it and maybe change it up and do my own modifications on it. So I just wanted to point that out. And I've also started doing a little bit of weathering on this already, which is why it looks, you know, a little more weathered than it did when I took it out of the box. And I'm going to do a little bit more on this silver, because it looks a little too clean. But that'll be one of the, well, I might do that after I apply the decals. So anyway, let's get started on those. Well, I'll show you what it looks like once I get the decals put on. Okay, well, this update is actually right after I did the last update, because I decided to get some preliminary stuff done. So I'm still waiting on the decals. But in the meantime, I did get this panel off. It turns out that those screws were real screws. And this is what it looked like. And so I don't know if I showed this in the last one. Anyway, you can see they got this big, huge switch in here, which is kind of, I have no idea why they bothered putting that in there, especially since it doesn't actually do anything. I mean, they could have put a much smaller switch in there. So because of that, they actually had to bore out the inside here. Let me see if I can get in there. They actually had to bore all that out. Let me see if I can get some light in there. Yeah, so let's see. But you can kind of see how they had to kind of dig all that out. And, you know, it's just MDF is what's in there. It's nothing special. So it's kind of goofy how they went through all that trouble just because they put a large switch on there. I also drilled a hole that's kind of down in there. You can't really see it, but the reason I drilled it, let me see if I can open these doors, is because the wires are going to have to come from the switch here and the light. They're going to have to come through that little hole right there, and then I'm going to just have everything down inside. Also, you'll notice I took that little clicker thing off. This thing here. Yeah, I have no idea why that was on there, but I just couldn't stand it, so I took it off. And I wanted to take the whole thing off that it's attached to. Let's see, which side was that on? Oh, it's over here. So yeah, I wanted to take that whole thing off, but they used some kind of glue on there that I couldn't get off, and I couldn't like pull that whole thing out. But that's fine. Nobody's going to be looking in there anyway, because I'm going to have the circuitry and the battery in there, so it's, you know, it's not a big deal. Let's see, what else? Oh, on this part here, as you can tell, I decided to go with this light cover. because this one here is just, the whole thing is just kind of screwy. There's something seriously wrong with this piece. So let me bring it over here actually real quick. Sorry about the dust everywhere. I was doing some grinding and that resin dust gets everywhere. So let me see if I can kind of get this focused. All right, so you'll notice this is not like a molded piece like this. This is actually something you buy at the electronics store. This is something that they just made themselves. And so you can tell that there's these weird looking little, you can see there's like the way it curves outward. So it's kind of like it's warped or something. And then this edge right here is also uneven. And that's why it wouldn't sit on that bezel properly. So, I mean, this whole thing is kind of screwed up. So I just decided to forget this whole thing. And I just decided to go with that because that's just going to be a better piece. Okay, and then this part here was the next trouble spot. So I needed to remove this panel because I need to get the lighting inside there. And I wasn't sure if these were real Allen screws or whatever, but I put an Allen wrench in there and it didn't turn, and I just assumed they weren't. So I took a hobby knife because I could see a gap in there, and this just popped right off. So inside here you can just see that. And now I don't know if those are. I mean, it's got these corner things. Maybe those are, in fact, real screws, but they sure didn't come out. And this thing popped off easier than anything. I mean, it was pretty much glued. But inside here now, you can see what's going on now. I've done a lot of grinding in there. I just did a whole bunch of dremeling to clear this out. There was not that big of a space as you see here, because once I get that circuit, you know, that bar graph light is going to go right across here. And then there's also an LED that goes on the very end right here. So this is going to have enough room to have all that fit in there, and it didn't. So especially on this side where that LED is going to go, I really had to kind of get off all that stuff into the corner and also along the edge there and over here, and then just make it a little deeper. I'm not really sure how much room it's going to need. I really need that circuit so I can kind of make a better judgment on it. And then there's the hole. And then I realized when I was looking at that circuit that I'm going to have to make a much bigger hole down in there because there's going to be like either a plug or the LED bar graph, and it's going to have to fit down in there, and that's going to be another tricky thing. So, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do when I see that the hole goes through there. So, yeah, we'll have to figure that out as well. Also, the back of this piece here, so this lens, as you can see when I shine light through it, it's too dark, and the yellow lights that I've got to shine through there are going to have a hard time shining through. So what I'm going to do is, this is just glued in place, so I'm just going to pull that off, and I have this thin clear sheet plastic. I'm just going to cut a rectangular piece and then replace this with that, and that way you can see it in there. And now on the bottom here, these wheels, man, those things were not easy to get off of there. They were something else. They were pieces of MDF that were kind of glued in, but they also had these metal pins that were on there too, and it was really odd. So I couldn't get them to just pull off, so I had to use a Dremel to grind it down until I discovered that there was those pins in there, and I could take some pliers and pull it out, and then the MDF comes off. So that was kind of a mess to get that off. The wheels, this is what the wheels look like. They're not even real wheels. They're they're like a portion of the wheel or something like that. They're like I don't know what you call it. It's like they're just fake. And on the back here you can see they're just hollow. So yeah, that was pretty cheesy. So anyway, I already have this going on now, and these will fit in here. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to see if I can, I have to go to Home Depot tomorrow and see if I can get a grinding wheel that's narrow enough to fit down in this slot, and I can kind of grind that out a little bit so that the wheel will fit in there a little bit better, because right now it's sticking out too far. So we'll work on that tomorrow, I guess. But oh man, this is turning out to be a much bigger project than I had intended it to be. Okay, so I got quite a bit of work done today. The wheels are now completely finished, so I'm really glad to get those on there. They actually went on pretty good. So these are now functioning actual wheels. So that's really awesome. I love it. And then these things, I just kind of flattened one side of the dowel down just a little bit so that this would fit more flush. And then I just used some Gorilla Glue on there. Gorilla Glue gel, actually, because that works the best. It doesn't run, stays in place where you got to have it. So that worked really good. And also glued the wheels onto that axle. But boy, this ended up being a lot of work because, of course, there wasn't enough room down in here because these cheap wheels that they had on here they're not even real wheels. So because this section is missing, I had to use my Dremel. This poor Dremel has gotten a lot of work. This has been my best friend for the last couple of days. But anyway, I had to really bore out a lot of area, a lot of material underneath there so that these wheels had enough room to move in there. So anyway, I was glad to get that all complete. And then I also got quite a bit of weathering done on this. So I did a lot of the silvering of the paint on there. And I did it on the section that goes in here too. And also did a little bit of a wash on here. You can kind of see it on the silver just to kind of make it so that the silver is dulled down just a little bit. I didn't want to overdo it. I just wanted to do enough to kind of make it look like it's a little dirty. And so yeah, the weathering is all done, so I'm glad to get that done. Let's see, the other thing I got, and I'm really happy, is I finally got these in today. So I finally got the stickers for this thing, and they were only $6 on eBay, and the lady that sold these to me, she was really nice. She threw in a few extra little goodies in there, and I thought that was really nice of her. And these look really good. The text is all nice and clear, and the colors look really good, and it's not some cheap thing done on a your home printer or something. And just had some random stuff on here too, and had some other things that I think are supposed to go on the Proton pack too. But it was really nice that she included some extras. But these look really good, so I'll be putting those on tomorrow. And then the other thing I had to fix is this piece here that goes on the front of the top part of the trap. And so I was talking about this earlier because the window on there was this kind of lousy thing. It was like a smoked piece of plastic, but this thing is so flimsy and cheap. All I had to do was just kind of push on it a couple times and it popped right out because it was just cheaply glued in there, and it's really flimsy. So I cut a nice piece of the clear plastic, and now it's got a nice clear window in there. You can see it on this side. You can really see the reflection on there. But yeah, it's nice and clean, and it looks really good. And I cut it to the right size, and it looks really good. So now when I get the lights, they'll be able to shine through there much better than that other thing. So yeah, got quite a bit done today, and I'm really happy with this. So I guess I'll get started on the stickers next. Okay, well, it looks like I got all the stickers put on now, and I gotta say, it already makes this thing look 10 times better. So here on the back, you can see I got all that one on there. And there's the one on the side here. There's the one on this side. There's actually not that many stickers on the trap. And then this one here, which, I've seen different people putting different stickers on this spot. And from the scenes that I've seen in the movie, there's a couple of scenes where Dan Aykroyd is holding the trap up by the cord. He's hanging it. And you can briefly see there's some kind of a red rectangular shaped sticker there, and I think it might be one of these because these ones are too big. Like that one's too big, and this one's way too big, and that's the only one that looks like it would fit there. And it's the same one that you see on that side. So I put it there. And then anyway, I also did some weathering on these. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but there's a little bit of a dirty wash on here. See how it looks more dirty? And I also did some more of the paint scrapes on the silvering here on the side. And this one here, you can kind of see all the dirt on it. See if I can focus in on that. I don't know why I'm always having such a hard time focusing on this. Anyway, what I used for that is this. This is Tamiya Panaline Paint Black. And I used some of the brown on there too for the silvering area, or silver area here. But that black works really good. I just kind of brush it on there and just kind of dab it with a paper towel or a napkin or something. But see how it kind of makes it look nice and dirty? So that really blends in. It blends in with the rest of it. So yeah, anyway, these stickers worked out really good, and I was really happy to get these. The lady that I bought these from was super, super nice, like I mentioned. The only thing that was kind of weird with this is this particular one is too big. Everything else fits just fine, but this one, for some reason, is really large. And I think it's because these stickers were actually originally designed for the Spirit Halloween trap. So I had to go to the print shop and have these. I had to make these other stickers, but see, they're reduced. So you can see how much smaller. Let me see if I can. You can see how much smaller this one is compared to that one. So I had them reduce it by 1/4, and then that's perfect. It fit on there just right. And so thankfully they had this sticker paper that they can print it on, and this one's laminated, so it's really shiny. So I used some Tester's Dull Coat to spray on there to make it not shiny anymore. And I also put a Tester's Dull Coat on all of this just to kind of give it a clear coat to protect that paint, yeah, the pan line paint, so it doesn't fall off. So yeah, anyway, I'm really loving the way this is turning out. A lot of work, but you know what? It's fun to do this kind of stuff. There's one sticker here I wanted to show you that hopefully I can get this. So this was actually a it's the back side of the Ghostbusters logo, and let me see. I want to try to get this focused a little better. Okay, there we go. So yeah, this was one of the stickers that nice lady threw in. I just think that's hilarious. I've never seen that before. You guys have probably seen it, but I think it's pretty funny how it's the back side of the, the original logo that's on there. But I think that is pretty darn funny. All right, well, the next step now is to get these electronics in here, and I am patiently waiting for those to get here. I ordered them from Canada, and so I'm not sure how long they're going to take. With the mail kind of being so screwy right now, but hopefully they'll get here soon, because I am just chomping at the bit to get those electronics in here, and I'm really, really concerned about how I'm going to get all of that stuff in here, and I actually bored some more of that out too, just to make a little bit more extra room. But I have a feeling that hole is going to have to be like about this wide by the time I'm done. I'm probably going to have to just take out a big chunk of that, because there's going to be either the circuit board's got to come through there, or the little plug-in that goes down in there. Anyway, I guess I'll figure it out when I get to that point. All right, see you on the next step. Okay, so I'm right in the middle of a fine mess right now, so thank goodness the circuit came in today, and I was really happy to see it. It just showed up in the mail. There was no tracking, so I didn't know when it was going to get here. But so anyway, you can see I've already started on this mess. Now, the circuit itself is actually really cool. You can see it down in there, and then this is the light bar that I was talking about. And then I actually had to shave off this end right here. You can see I had to shave that off, because there was a little bit sticking out, and since I'm at a really tight area right here, I needed enough room on this side for that LED, because that's got to go over there. And then you can see the circuit in there, and then what do we got going on over here? Okay, so there's the switch, and then I changed so this is what the circuit came with, this battery, and or I should say battery clip. And I'm not really fond of these. These are kind of made of vinyl or something, and they're really hard to pull off the battery when you need to change it, and also these tend to rip over time. So I went ahead and cut that off, and I replaced it with one of these really nice thicker plastic connectors. So you can see I just made the connection right here. So now that's all done. Okay, so now what I got to do is I got to get the switch, and let's see, where's the other LED? Well, there's another LED in here somewhere. But anyway, it's got to go through this hole, so I'm gonna have to cut these wires and then put this part into the rest of the trap, so I can get it to lace through to that back section. But yeah, boy, I'm telling you, this is turning out to be a major, and then I really had to cut a huge hole in there. So that was what I was talking about. This piece had to fit through that big hole down there, so I really had to gouge out a big chunk of it down there, because that was the only way that was going to fit. Since there's all these wires, there was no way I was going to cut those and then try to resolder that mess. And since the circuit board is bigger than this is the part that had to fit in there. So here, let me just turn this on real quick so I can just at least show you what this is going to look like. So here you go. So here's these cool lights here, and you can see how they cycle through like this. And these are from Canada, and they're really cool. And then you can see the one, when those light up, you can see the one down there lights up. And then you got the blinking red one down here. That's the one that's going to go towards the back. All right, well, gosh, all right, let me get this all put together, and we'll get on to the next step. All righty, it looks like I'm now on the home stretch now. God, I cannot believe how much work this has taken to make it look like this. I mean, I knew this was going to be a big project, but it turned out to be way more work than I thought. And these electronics, I knew they were going to be a tricky thing to do, but I'm really glad that I did it, because I think it's going to look really good when I'm done. So Anyway, so now I finally got all this stuff, attached to this, so to the back plate. So this, the switch that was on here originally, I showed you earlier, was this big, huge switch on here, and the switch that comes with the circuit is much smaller. So of course the hole that was right here was huge. So I had to fill that in with that washer. That way I could use the existing switch that comes with the circuit, because I didn't want to use the big one anyway. And then that hole that's down in there, let me see if I can turn on some light. So that hole that's down in there, I actually had to, well, I don't know if I can get it, but anyway, I had to make it bigger because there's a lot of wires in there. And so, yeah, I had to re-drill that. And then also, the only two features that I mentioned that I have on this is the doors move and then this cartridge pulls out like it did in the movie. Well, I had to forfeit the feature of pulling that out because once all these wires are in here and you got, wires going through that hole down there, and, I don't want this to slide out by accident because it's only attached by a single magnet back here. So I added a couple of drops of hot glue in there when I slid it in for the final time, and that way it doesn't accidentally drop out. In here you can see there's the circuit board. I put a little drop of hot glue on there to keep that in place. And then there's the battery, and you can kind of see that little clip that I have the battery sitting in. That's a little trick that I use when I'm building models and I put lights in my models. And in fact, there's a YouTube channel called Interstellar Modeler, and it's run by a guy named Augie. Super nice guy, and he builds all these amazing models, and I've subscribed to his channel for a long time because I like building models too. And I told him about this little clip that he can use for his 9-volt batteries, because I noticed sometimes he was having a hard time finding a way to put those on. And he loved the idea so much that he actually gave me a shout out in one of his videos, which was pretty cool. But what those actually are, it's one of these things. So if you go to Home Depot, you can find these things. It's by Cordmate, and it's a coupler, and you can kind of see it's like a little U-shaped thing. And as soon as I saw this, I knew what I was going to use it for. But what this actually is if you have, say, a wall-mounted TV and you got all these cables hanging down the wall, and you don't want the cables to be kind of unsightly, they have long pieces of this that you mount to the wall, and then you put the cables, inside here, and then it hides the cables. And then these little pieces are just little couplers that you can snap on they're like connector pieces. But I use them for these little 9-volt battery clips because they work perfect. So you can just pop it out of there, change the battery, and snap it back in. So that works out really good. So anyway, so now all the wires are reconnected. I got everything all soldered back together. There's quite the spaghetti farm of wiring in there. Some of the wires are pretty long, but that's okay. I'd rather have them too long than too short. The main section that gave me so much problems, and I knew this was going to be, was this section here. And so I had to actually make that hole even bigger, and I had to Dremel out even more stuff in here because these wires back here had to have room to, go in there. And then also the bar graph lights, they didn't have anything you could attach it to this plate for because, of course, this was a pre-made item. But so I had to make this little box. You can see this little box that I built around it, and so I had to do that in order to be able to glue it to the back plate right here. And then also that box helps to, I painted the inside of it black, and then that way it kind of helps kind of isolate these lights so that they're just in there by themselves, and then the light isn't going everywhere. It's just kind of like in that little box. So it kind of worked twofold, so it worked really good. Drilling the hole for that little LED right there was super scary because there's not a lot of room between that spot, and so I had to make sure I just took it really slow. So I just started with the smallest drill bit and kept working up one size until I got it big enough for the LED to fit in, because I sure didn't want to split that, because I don't know how this plastic is. So, but yeah, that was really a mess working in there. Everything, it's really tight quarters in there, and but I managed to get it all in there. So I have to make a confession now. I kind of screwed up on one part. So in order to Dremel this hole out, this whole thing is at an angle. See how there's a little angle right here, like right in that little spot. So in order to get the hole in there, you have to put the Dremel in at an angle that way. And it's really awkward to try to, Dremel things out, and the Dremel doesn't, it just barely makes it to the end on the inside where there's the hole right there. And then you have to take the Dremel going this way to Dremel out the rest of that hole. Well, the very thing I didn't want to do was the very thing I did, and that was go too far and then accidentally Dremel out too much material to where it went through the other side. And so see that little extra piece of plastic right there on the bottom? That is to cover up the hole that I accidentally made when I went too far. And it was it was so frustrating. Trust me, there was a few choice words said. But originally I was going to fill that hole with putty, and then the more I kept doing it, I was like, nah, this isn't going to work. So I just took a piece of styrene plastic, similar to what I used or it's the same plastic that I used to make that little box right there. But anyway, I just cut a strip of plastic and then painted it black and just glued it on there and called it good. Because nobody's really going to notice that it's even there. And thankfully, it's on the bottom of that little, curvature or that little angle there. So 99% of people aren't even going to notice it. So thankfully, a disaster was averted, and and it was easily fixed, and it's in an inconspicuous spot. So, oh gosh, I tell you, it's just always been, there's just seemed like there was new problems popping up with this all the time. All right, well, I think, okay, so at this point now, I think I can go ahead and I think I'm going to hot glue this on, just because in case I ever have to get in there, I can just kind of pop it back off. And then let me screw this panel back on, and then I'm going to set everything back up on this stand. And I'm just going to give you my final thoughts about this entire process, and also about this Hollywood Collectibles prop in general. Okay, here we go. Everything is finally all done. I'm so glad to be done with this project. So yeah, this is how everything displayed back on the display base like it normally is. I got everything all put back together here on the trap. Let me turn on the lights right here, so you can see how it does the awesome blinking back there. And then I like how these ones kind of cycle up here. They go down first, and then they do that. And then they repeat that, and they'll do that about 4 or 5 times, and then the lights will go the other direction one time. But yeah, it looks really cool. I gotta say, the lights just really bring this thing to life, and it was a much needed improvement. Honest to God, I just can't believe that Hollywood, this is where it goes down. See how it does that? That's so cool. And it kind of starts the process over. Anyway, though, I just can't believe Hollywood Collectibles is charging $500 for these things, and they don't do anything. I mean, really, it's probably worth about a couple $100, maybe $250 at the most. I mean, really, for what you get. And so these improvements that I made, the wheels, I mean, I'm really glad that this rolls now. And not that I'm really going to roll it around a lot, but it's nice to be able to have that do that. And there's no reason why they couldn't have just put some wheels on there. They spend a couple bucks putting some stickers on there. The lights, the stickers, and the wheels cost me about $85 total, which isn't bad. The lights were the most expensive, but it just makes it look a lot better. And so yeah, I'm just kind of amazed at it. By the way, speaking of the stickers, I do want to give a shout out to the YouTuber eBob Hazard. I was watching his video of this thing, and he's the one that pointed out that red sticker right there is the one he thinks that goes there, because I've seen so many different stickers on there, including like the one you see here that looks like a schematic, and other ones that have been stuck on there. But the scene that he was talking about in the movie, you can see that little red thing right there. You can't really tell that that's what it is, but I'm glad he pointed it out, because I really wasn't sure what sticker to put on there. So shout out to eBob Hazard for that. The base on these things are limited editions of 500, and well, let me show you the bottom of the base. Okay, so this is the bottom of the base, and you can see it's got all this writing on here, and it's a limited edition. This is number 123 of 500. And so, whether they made the full 500 of these, I don't know. A lot of times these companies, if they don't sell the product very much, they sometimes don't make the full run. And I've never seen any of these higher than in the 100. So who knows if they actually made the full 500, but just thought I'd show you that. So as I mentioned previously, I did not pay $500 for this. I paid $300 for it, which, is a much better price, brand new in the box, and I was glad to get it for a decent price. If you're thinking about buying one of these, and you have $500 to blow, on something like this, and you know what you're gonna get, just a display piece that doesn't do anything, and you really want one, then I'd say go ahead and get it. But honestly, for $500, I would probably put that money towards the Matty Collector ghost trap, because it does everything. The foot pedal works. You step on it, the doors open. It's got the sound effects, the lights. It acts like it catches the ghost, and it even has the feature where the trap shakes like the ghost is trying to get out of there. I mean, that's really cool. And so for the money, and those are expensive. They go for about $600 or more, because they're super collectible now. I'm really glad I bought mine when I did. But I would say go for that. My only beef with it is it's plastic, and I don't like the plastic traps. They look too toy-like. That's why I like this one and the one that I showed earlier in the video from eBay, because this thing looks like a real actual piece of equipment. And especially now, I weathered the heck out of it. I mean, you can see there wasn't nearly this many paint chips and scratches, and the dirt and stuff on it just makes it look a lot better. There was a little bit of weathering on it, but nothing compared to what I've done with it. It just looks, you know, like worlds better. So yeah. And so anyway, but just know what you're getting into if you decide to buy one of those. By the way, this is what the box looks like when you get it. I'm not really a big unboxing video type of person, so I'm just going to very briefly show you this. But this is what it looks like. It's a really big box. It's got the nice, you know, Ghostbusters logo on here, and you've got this kind of graphic here on the side. And on these sides, it looks the same on both sides. And this is the back of the box, and you can see there's the numbered edition on there. And I will try to hold this steady enough that you can pause this and kind of look at it. Let me see if I can get more straight on it. But you can pause it and read that if you'd like. But that's what the box looks like. You know, nothing really special. And the inside has a big block of foam, and everything's really securely packed in there. I mean, it's very nicely packaged. So I was looking at some of the stores that carry this thing. Some of the ones, you know, that like Entertainment Earth, Sideshow Collectibles. Those kinds of places that tend to carry these kinds of merchandise, and I gotta say, it doesn't look like they're really selling a whole lot of these. It looks like a bunch of them are kind of sitting in their back room. I mean, probably because the price is scaring everybody away. But I was perusing the interwebs the other day, and I happened to notice a very interesting tidbit of information about this. Now, I don't know how true this is, and maybe if you guys know more about it, you can comment in the comment section. But on the Ghostbusters fandom website, I was reading a thread about people talking about this actual piece, and it was made by, so one of the guys on the Ghostbusters fan website actually made this trap. He would sell the trap, and he would also, I think he sold the parts too, I don't know, but for sure he sold the trap. And then Hollywood Collectibles Group came along and pretty much copied it. They molded the parts or something and just made an exact replica of it. And because they had the license to sell this, they pretty much pulled the rug out from under that guy. And he was kind of out of business, and then they came along and started selling this piece. So, you know, he did all the research and development on how to design this thing and make it, and they did that. Now, if that is true, if that's really true, that's what they did, then that's pretty shady that they would do that. And so because of it, a lot of Ghostbusters fans are boycotting this. They're not buying it because of that. So that might be another reason why it doesn't seem like these are selling well. But I found that interesting, very interesting information. So, you know, like I said, I don't know if it's true, but it sounds like it is. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. But anyway, as far as displaying this piece, I'm not even going to display this foot pedal. I mean, it's a nice piece. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a nice piece, and it's very well detailed, and I think it looks good, but personally, I really couldn't care less about this thing. I mean, it doesn't do anything, and, you know, there's no light on here, and it's even missing a sticker on here that the pedal doesn't push down. By the way, I didn't mention this, but the knobs do not turn on this. They're glued in place, which is just another thing that I thought was crazy. But anyway, and there's no cable or hose that connects the trap to the, you know, the back of the trap here. Which you know, is kind of lame also, but I really don't care about this. So this is going back in the box, and then the base, as nice as this base is, it's made of like a wood material. It's got that nice trim. It's going to be too big to use to display just the trap. I mean, I'm just interested in the trap. I think that thing is just so cool. So anyway, I made my own trap for it. I mean, I made my own display base for it, not my own trap, but yeah, so I just whipped up this this base for it, which I think looks really good. It mimics the lid on the trap itself, and this is just 3 layers of foam board that I stacked one on top of each other and hot glued together, and then I used foam board to make the border, or I should say the edge here, so that it's smooth, so you don't have the unevenness of the pieces glued together. And then I just use good old fashioned black and yellow electrical tape to make this stand, and it looks really good. I think it turned out really nice. And so yeah, I'm just going to use this to display this thing. All right, well anyway, I think that's everything. I'm hoping I'm not forgetting to tell you guys anything, but anyway, yeah, this has been a crazy build. I've worked so hard on this, but I'm really loving the results of this. I mean, this thing looks so cool. The lights look so much better, and yeah, I like that you can roll it now, and I like that the stickers look proper and it's weathered better. It just looks 10 times better. This is how it should have looked when it came out of the box, especially if you're going to pay $500 for this. If they're going to charge $500 for this, Hollywood Collectibles Group, if you're going to charge $500 for this, it better do more than just look good. And it really, you know, it needed a lot more. And also, by the way, I never even heard of Hollywood Collectibles Group. When I was looking back at some of their past merchandise, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I have seen some of the stuff that they made, but I never bought it because it seems like they always have the same problem with their stuff. It's like they look good on the surface until you look at them closer. Just like their figures for the Ghostbusters figures, they look good from a distance, but when you start looking at their face, the face sculpts aren't very good. And then, you know, same thing, or maybe the paint applications aren't very good. And the same thing with this, you know, they made it look really good, but then they just didn't take that extra mile to put lights in it or make the wheels work or the knobs turn, you know, stickers, make the doors open, you know, anything would have made it look, you know, justify that $500 price tag. So anyway, that's my take on this thing. And I hope you've enjoyed my little adventure of doing all these upgrades. But I very much appreciate you all watching. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I guess I'll see you on the next one. So have a great day and take care.